Hi, and thanks for watching part 2 of my series on getting more from your drill press. In part 1, we talked about some of the issues that are present in a drill press without any modifications, and we talked about some of the modifications that you might want to make to your drill press. In part 2, we're going to actually look at a couple of those modifications, specifically adding a table on top of this metal table for your drill press. This will allow us to use things like T-tracks, hold-down clamps, toggle clamps, and other jigs that can really add some value to your drill press operation. This set, for example, is available from Rockler with their drill press table. It includes a small toggle clamp, hold down clamp, and stop block that can be used both on the table and on the fence. That is included in the Rockler drill press table. Rockler's drill press table, shown here, has two T-tracks, as well as a removable sacrificial insert. You can make a number of these with zero clearance cutouts for sanding on the drill press or for special sized bits. Once they're worn out, they're very easy to replace. It also has a split fence in the back, a 2.5-inch angled dust extraction port, and a groove here that gives you some clearance around the spindle of the drill. The back side of the press has two hold-down clamps that are intended to attach this table to the metal table of your drill press. We'll be removing those for our purposes, but hang on to them. I'll show you an interesting use for those later on. Here's the table just resting on the drill press itself. We can easily slide a couple clamps in to the T-track, just for example on how that works. Our hold-down stop block here would be useful if we wanted to perform repeatable drilling operations. Now we talked about some of these chips that are created when you use a Forstner bit. The dust extraction here is very good, but it does tend to plug up with some of these larger pieces. You can see the opening's not all that large. So for fine dust it's great, but for larger pieces it's a bit of a problem. So part of what I want to show you today is how to overcome that with a couple of modifications we can make. For dust extraction, we're going to attach a 2.5-inch hose to this port that's already on the fence, and it's going to run off to the left side of the column on the drill press. We're also going to build a small box underneath this table and have a 2.5-inch port there that will create some downdraft suction underneath this sacrificial insert. That'll be especially useful if we make a zero clearance insert for sanding, or if we make an insert with some holes punched in it for regular drilling operations. We'll also attach an additional dust collection point off the column that has an arm that will come around and be adjustable, so we can actually collect some of those larger chips right at the source. So first, let's cut a piece of plywood for the base of our box. Now we need to drill a few holes to mount that piece of plywood to the metal table. It's fairly easy to drill through, just use a good bit and go slow. I'm not worrying too much about the placement of the holes, as I will actually come from underneath and drill up to put holes in the plywood. I've clamped the piece of plywood in place, so I'm going to drill up from underneath through each of the 4 holes to create a hole for the bolt in the plywood. Now with the holes in place, I'll put a few bolts through here, some washers, lock washers, and nuts from the underside of the table. Now I just need to build up the sides. I'm going to go with about 4-inch sides on mine. You can see just a very simple plywood box, nothing fancy. I've glued and screwed the corners in place so it's solid. I'm going to use a hole saw in the back left corner here to put a hole in for dust collection. And then with that hole in place, I'm going to attach one of these 2.5-inch dust ports that are available from Rockler. They just screw in over the hole. Now that I have my dust port in place, I've just cut another piece of plywood and screwed it on top of my box here to give myself a nice solid mounting base for the Rockler table. If you flip the Rockler table over and remove the mounting hardware we looked at earlier, we'll end up with a nice flat bottom on this table. And here I've attached it to the plywood box. I did some countersunk screws in the tabletop so that the screws don't interfere with the operation on the top of the table. Now here I've attached a couple of dust collection accessories. I have an adjustable flex hose that I've attached to the column with this hose clamp and a special bracket available from Peachtree Woodworking. This plastic piece actually slides onto that bracket, so you can remove this arm fairly easily. The flex hose is available from Rockler, and it holds its position very well, but it's nice and adjustable, and actually expands to quite a long length. It has this regular 2.5-inch end on it. You can also attach several specialty nozzles that they have, depending on the amount of collection you need. We'll attach this 4-inch quick disconnect on the end of our dust collection hose run for the drill press. For now, I'm going to use the quick disconnect. Ultimately, I'm going to just plumb this into my dust collection line with a blast gate. So here you can see I have my 2.5-inch hose that I'm going to cut sections from. And I also have several of these Y adapters I'm going to hook together in line to give me 3 connection points, something like this. I also picked up a couple 2.5-inch metal blast gates so that I can regulate airflow to each of the 3 collection points. I'm going to leave those out for the time being until I determine where will be best to use them, where I might need to adjust the airflow the most. So with this in place, let's do a test drill first without any dust collection, and you can see just what a mess the Forstner bit makes. There we go, we have dust and chips all over the place. Now, I've removed the insert here, and I'm going to show you, we're going to get the, so we get the best airflow with our downdraft collection. Ultimately, I would make a removable insert that has some holes in it, but just for the sake of example, we're going to go without the insert now. And with dust collection running, let's do another quick test hole. You can see a lot of the chips disappear right into the table. There are a few left, and we'll just brush those in. Overall, collection with this setup is far, far better than we were getting before. We still have a few on the table, and I think I might be able to take care of that with the blast gauge, as I mentioned, to regulate some of the airflow. I've also added this little shop tray on the front here, just as a quick note. It gives me a good spot to store some of my clamps and hold downs and other little accessories for the drill press. It's available at Rockler as well, and it has a perforated bottom on it, so dust just falls through. Now remember those hold downs we used earlier. You can actually come in here with a T-track bolt and a knob and make yourself a couple bonus hold downs for your tabletop simply by sliding this through, tightening the knob on, and then when that slides into the T-track, you can slide thinner pieces of stock underneath here, and you have 2 more hold downs for your table. You can control the height of stock that you can hold down by adding longer T-track bolts.